Welcome to On Top of PR with Jason Mudd, presented by Review Maxer.
Hello and welcome to On Top of PR. I'm your host, Jason Mudd with Axia Public Relations. We have a special guest today, Jacob Shipley with Tyson Foods, and more specifically, Tyson Food Services. Jacob is the Digital Customer Experience Manager. Jacob, welcome to On Top of PR.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. I'm going to read your bio here real quick and then ask you a couple follow-up questions. So, cool. Jacob, you started as the first social media hire at YouVersion, an app with half a billion downloads. That's half a billion. That's a lot of downloads. I'm one of those. While there, YouVersion's Instagram grew by over 1 million followers 2 years in a row. That's impressive, Jacob. And then our TikTok grew from 0 to 300,000 in less than 6 months. In your role at Tyson Foods, you handle the technology and execution for organic social, paid social, and first-party data collection. And you also have a weekly newsletter, Social Studies, which has one goal, which is to help social media managers take their game to the next level. Our topic today is going to be talking about social media managers and kind of what to do and how-tos of best practices when you are a one-person social media team. But Jacob, I'm confident during our conversation today, we'll have plenty of tips for those that have the fortune, good fortune, or some days maybe not so good fortune of working with a larger team. Does that sound good, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Perfect. Okay, so first of all, I know that somebody somewhere listening to this podcast isn't immediately going to know what first-party data collection means. Almost sounds like a credit bureau, I think, to some people. So, Jacob, why don't you just express specifically what your role is with first-party data collection at your current employer?
Yeah, for sure. So I work at Tyson Foods, like you mentioned, and I'm on the food service side. So that is, think like selling food into restaurants, cafeterias, that whole side of the business. So any place that you go out of the home to eat. And then the flip side of that would be our retail division, which is, you go buy Tyson, any of our brands at, Walmart or Kroger or anything like that. So when you think about we have access to reach our customers. So in this case, restaurant owners, chefs, that kind of market, have access to target them on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We can try some Google ads, programmatic ads. Anytime we can get a customer to opt into communication and give us information or give us an outlet to contact them directly, that's obviously a win. And so usually that takes place in the form of an email address. A lot of brands go, phone number, even like mailing address could be that. But anytime we just get permission from one of our customers to say, hey, I'm opting into your communication, I'm giving you permission to contact me directly, that obviously streamlines communication and makes it easier for both parties. Hopefully, in an ideal world, they find the communication that we give them super valuable, so they get a direct line of communication. And I think that's what this predicated on, right? Is that you're delivering valuable communication, not just buy my product, but you're delivering tangible value so that your customers want to hear from you, want to know what you have to say, and then you have an outlet to communicate directly with the people that are making the purchasing decisions.
Gotcha. Love that. Okay, good. So ultimately, what kind of software or tools are you using to produce or to integrate that kind of content from your activities into your master database?
Yeah, for sure. I have to be a little careful on this one. I'm not supposed to just kind of go through the tech stack, but we do have a social media management platform. We have a marketing automation tool, and then we have a first-party data collection tool, and then we have a web analytics tool as well. And then all of those kind of are puzzle pieces that fit together, and then are constantly communicating that when we add a data source in one, they kind of loop it all around so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, and we're not kind of shooting ourselves in the foot there.
Sure. Okay. So there is some automation that's happening in the systems, or there's a workflow that gets it from the time the data is submitted into some sort of platform.
For sure, yeah, and like you said, in this case, it's the good fortune of having being part of a company that has a built-out team to where each person kind of mans a specific tool, and then they're all So, I mean, the tools are talking to each other, but then at the same time, the social media person, me, is talking to the marketing automation person, who's talking to the web analytics person, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Showing up as one Tyson, doing in a single effort.
Yeah, yeah. So to be clear, you're the you're doing social media, but you're doing it B2B, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times I get feedback from B2B companies saying, why do we need to be on social media? We're B2B.
Yeah, I think I had a LinkedIn post about this a while back where I said like the difference between B2B social media and B2C social media is B2C, you are talking to consumers. B2B, you're talking to consumers that happen to work in a business. And so I think sometimes we try and overcomplicate it. There are some nuances for B2B versus B2C, but at the end of the day, like you're still just talking to people, and so in my case, we're talking to restaurant owners or restaurant chefs or general managers, but they're still people. They're the kind of the example we always use is they're out in the alley by the dumpster at 2 a.m. Just taking a break, or in the walk-in freezer, just sitting down, just kind of collecting themselves for a couple of minutes, in the dinner rush. And what are they doing? Well, they're probably on their phone. They're scrolling Instagram, they're scrolling TikTok, they're scrolling Facebook. And so how can we show up? How can we provide content that is valuable in that instant? And in that instant, they're not wanting to be sold to. They're not wanting, a professional, long, drawn-out communication. They're just wanting to be entertained, educated, maybe inspired. And so how can we meet that need? I have a friend named Dave Adamson who has this brilliant quote. He said, being relevant is just meeting the needs of the person in the moment that they need it most. And so in that moment, when they're in the walk-in freezer scrolling TikTok, how can we just show up and meet their needs in that moment?
Yeah, so it's really not that complicated, is it, Jacob? I mean, we make it complicated, but at the end of the day, I don't know who said this, but I use it all the time. Behind every B2B transaction is a B2C relationship. And so, we're all humans, right? And to your point, I think we can complicate things a little bit too much, but at the end of the day, corporate buyers are also humans, and humans have personal social media. And if you can connect with them during their personal time, then you're occupying more of their mind share. And ultimately, let's not complicate things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's a good point. Like most of the time people are on social, it's not with the mindset of looking for a business, or a vendor to do business with. They're looking for that kind of the three pillars: educate, entertain, or inspire. And so how can you neatly fit your content into the kind of content that they're already consuming on that platform?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the truth is, it's no different than just traditional media. People tune into traditional media to be educated, inspired, and informed, or educated. They're not doing it because they want to see who's advertising and who can sell me something today, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so a one-person social media team can be very lonely, but there's also probably some benefit of being a one-person team, right? So kind of talk through a little bit for me in your experience. What are some of the pros and cons to being a one-person social media team?
Yeah, I think Craig Rochelle says growth creates complexity, complexity kills growth. And so I think, the bigger the team, the more complex it is, the harder it is to fight that. When I was at YouVersion, we were, you listed the kind of some stats. We were able to grow really quickly. And I think a big part of that was we would have an idea at 9 a.m. and it would be live by lunch because I was the only social media person. And so I would, make something on my laptop, turn it to my boss and say, how does this look? He'd give me a thumbs up, and then we'd post it. And so we were able to be really, really nimble, really, really agile. Obviously, on the flip side of that, if you're part of a integrated team, you're able to do things at scale. You're able to make use of the best resources, the best content. Obviously there are benefits. I think when I think about what kind of content drives the most results on organic social, it tends to favor content creators and teams that are able to be incredibly agile and nimble and really play to what the algorithm is pushing and play to what the platform is prioritizing.
Excellent. Jacob, you So tell me, what are you working on now that's kind of got you excited, or what are you keeping an eye on for in social media that you see as either going to be, exciting in 2024? You kind of give me your thoughts on what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously, like if you scroll Twitter or X for very long, you'll see everybody is a ghostwriter now, and I think it's kind of funny, but it's also, I think it highlights a trend of that people are realizing, businesses are realizing that people follow people. And so obviously brand accounts, there's so many brand accounts that are just have created an identity, but it almost highlights that same point, right? When you think about the brands that are really crushing it, you're not following brands like on social, you're following the persona that brand has created. Even if there's not like a figure, it has a personality, it has a certain feel to it. So in some way, you still are following a person. And so this ghostwriting craze, I think a lot of CEOs, a lot of founders, a lot of executives are realizing that, if you look at how many X followers Elon Musk has versus like Tesla, right? Elon Musk is far and away above that. Not necessarily because the content's better, but because people follow people, I think, and people follow personality. And so
Right.
I think this infusion of personality into corporate brand accounts, and also executives kind of planting their stake in the ground and saying, I'm going to try to grow my own following, grow my own influence that will follow me wherever I go, but also benefit, whoever my employer is or my business along the way.
Right, right. Okay, so circling back to a one-person social media team, it's a little bit lonely, right? And probably a little bit of pressure of, what if I call in sick or I'm, out for an extended period of time? And, I don't know about your policy. I'd be curious to hear yours, but, we try to prepare 80% of our content ahead of time, and then 20% of our content is designed to be spontaneous and reactive and trend spotting and things like that. How might you do it differently, Jacob?
I love that 80% number. There's another really, really great content creator in the social media management space named Tommy Clark, and he has a newsletter called Social Files. And he had a quote that I just loved. He said, if you know what content you're posting in 2 months, your content probably sucks. Mm-hmm. And I think, there is some truth to that obviously you want to have a really solid content calendar where you have, like right now on LinkedIn, I think I've got all my posts scheduled out through the end of the month. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I'm going to go in at least a few times this month, delete one that's scheduled and plug one in based on something that's trending. So I think that's perfect. Like I love that ratio of 80-20. I think leaving room to be nimble, and then just building out systems too. That's the unsexy side of social media. Everybody wants to make, a banger meme that goes viral, but it's, when I was at YouVersion, we lived on spreadsheets. Tyson too. We have it's not just as simple as a spreadsheet, but we have systems in place to where we know what we're posting. We have a really solid kind of format, and then like repurposing content too can definitely help. And I think it varies depending on your brand voice and that how quickly you're growing. But another way to kind of scale up content and velocity is anytime you have a top performer, throwing that back in the rotation, making some slight tweaks, other ways you can, improve it even more, but then reposting it, because most of your followers never saw the first time and none of your new followers saw it. So is there a way you can kind of continue to, that can help build up so it's not as much work in the long run?
Yeah, I love that. Love that. Yeah, I think the idea of, if you prep 80% of your post ahead of time, whether it's that same week or that same month, right, then you've got kind of the boxes checked, and then you can be out there engaging with your team instead of showing up to work and go, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to post today, right? And then you've got that pressure of doing it. And I think the extreme version of what we're talking about is like, what comes to mind is like McDonald's. Like McDonald's has an agency with like 40 something people or more working on their social media every day. And then they've got, store level social media coordinators managing local stores as well. And to me, that just seems like so many people, right, involved in such a big effort. But that's because McDonald's is a huge brand. There's a lot of stages of compliance and approval and things like that. So sounds like at your current employer and even at Uverse, it's pretty nimble as far as the approval process and approval chain. Can you kind of describe what that was like at those two organizations?
Yeah, I mean, YouVersion was, owned by Life Church, so it's a faith-based nonprofit. It's like if you have a Bible app on your phone, it's probably YouVersion. But still, we operated in very much like a startup mentality. I mean, I think when I was there, we were 10, 15 years old maybe. But it was very much very nimble, very lean. Tyson obviously we're a 100-year-old company. That it's just there are definitely more layers of approval. Not that that's a bad thing,
Right.
just is right as part of a big employer. There has to be more layers of approval to get legal sign off and that sort of thing.
Right.
And you
Compliant.
mentioned McDonald's. McDonald's, I think, is an incredible example of how they're able to make content that feels socially native without curating from anybody else. If you look at I love Dave Ramsey's content. He talks about his niche in a way that's very fun and very funny, but they're constantly pulling memes from other people and which I love. I imagine that opens the door to intellectual property issues, whereas McDonald's creates that same style of content that feels very native, very like this was made for whatever platform it lives on, but they do it using all of their own assets. And I think they're one of the few I can't think of another one off the top of my head that's pulling that off really, really well. And but like you said, they have that's obviously a big pillar for the organization that they put resources behind that to make it happen. But yeah, they're absolutely best in class in that.
Well, let's talk about resources, by the way, because you and I had talked previously before, even today when we're recording, about this idea that every organization claims they have a small budget, right? So if I were interviewing the head of social media at McDonald's, he or she would go on and on about how small their budget is and how they're expected to do so much. But then any other company would just be probably blown away by how much money McDonald's invests in social media, right? And I'm using the word investment intentionally because it is an investment. So, this idea that, most companies say, oh, we have such a small budget. Well, guess what? So do the billion-dollar global corporations. They say they have a small budget also. So it's all relative, right? I've never met anybody that goes, man, we've got this huge budget for PR or this ridiculous budget for social media, and we're excited to be spending it. I've never heard that. And so I'm sure that happens somewhere, but at the end of the day, it doesn't go very far. I remember I was advising the world's largest fintech company about social media very early on in their entry into social media. And, we kind of agreed that, they had about a $5 million budget to kind of experiment with social media and see how it's going to work for their brand. And, some companies would find it unbelievable to have a $5 million budget, much less a $5 million experiment. But when you're the world's largest of anything, you're a publicly traded global corporation, obviously, you're going to spend a little bit more money than a smaller, more scaled back organization is.
Yeah, definitely. I think that highlights the thing about organic social specifically, because with almost every other digital marketing platform, you can really tangibly measure ROI in the short term, whereas organic social, it's I like the phrase, like the quicker you try to prove the ROI of organic social, the longer it's going to take. Because if you're constantly saying, buy my product, buy my product, buy my product, nobody's going to buy your product.
Nobody's going to follow you either.
Right. Yeah. Whereas if you build content that people find relevant, they want to share, they want to engage with, are they going to buy a product? Probably not right then, but over the long term, you're going to build a community around this interest, around your company that, yes, will translate to tangible sales. And so I think that's probably whenever there are budget cuts, organic social usually gets hit because of that reason of we can't prove tangible ROI. Yeah, we can do things like UTM tracking to see link in bio clicks or, post link clicks and then purchase on that. But the vast majority of content on organic social shouldn't be that type of content that's pushing people off the platform onto a site, to drive traffic and drive sales. It should be content around building affinity towards the brand that down the line will lead to sales. So it's a tricky situation for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I want to get back to what we were gonna focus on, which is the minimum viable social strategy. But first, I want to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with more from Jacob Shipley.
You're listening to On Top of PR with your host, Jason Mudd. Jason is a trusted advisor to some of America's most admired and fastest growing brands. He is the managing partner at Axia Public Relations, a PR agency that guides news, social, and web strategies for national companies. And now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to On Top of PR. I'm Jason Mudd, joined by Jacob Shipley. Jacob is with Tyson Food Services, and he's helping us understand what it's like to be a one-person social media team and how to be successful in that environment. Jacob, welcome back. And we're going to talk about the minimum viable social strategy. So first of all, what is a minimum viable social strategy?
Yeah. I started writing on LinkedIn every day in January of 2022 and kind of accidentally just built this community of other social media managers, social media professionals that we're all in the trenches trying to build a presence for a brand on social media. And so then I eventually transitioned some of that to a newsletter where I could kind of ramble a little bit longer and, put my thoughts in one place and have a place to share that. And then I end every email with, send me any questions. I love, just thinking through things with people. And the most common question by far is, where do I start if it's just me running social? I'm a one-person team. Where do I start? And so kind of chatted with some people that I really respect in the industry and thinking through what is like the minimum viable strategy. If you're a one-person team, and a lot of times people, they're not just social, they're like a marketing manager or marketing coordinator where you own maybe email, website, social, right? Which in a lot of places is
Right. Yep.
3, 6, 9, 12 jobs, and so you're managing all of that. If you don't have that crazy budget, what's the minimum strategy you can start with to where it's worth the investment? Because a lot of times, like if you're doing the wrong thing, it doesn't matter how long you do it, you're not going to get results. So what's the right path to go down that it's not going to be as effective as if you had 40 hours a week to dedicate, but where can you at least start?
Okay, good. Yeah, I like that. So in your tips, you're suggesting that you pick a format. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the way I'm kind of, not that this is, right, but kind of how I'm thinking about it is there are a few different categories of social. There's like the written word, which is kind of where I live on my personal brand. So,
Right.
LinkedIn, X, and Threads, as we're recording this, is still relatively a new player. And so those brands where it's really all about writing. Obviously, image and video still exist, but it's about writing. And then there's the short form video platforms, which TikTok kind of changed the game entirely. They really were able to change what other platforms were in order to compete with TikTok, right? So when TikTok came out,
Yep.
It was the go-to destination for short form video. Mm-hmm. And then very quickly, like Facebook had one called Lasso that nobody remembers, but that was like their original competitor, didn't really get traction. And they're like, well, let's, shift and kind of turn Instagram into this TikTok competitor. YouTube came out with shorts. And then even like Facebook was pushing Reels super hard natively in Facebook too. So really every platform was trying to compete with that. So the way your brand is situated, you can probably pick pretty quick. Do we fit more into that written word category, or are we more in the short form video category? Like the stereotypical examples are like a B2B SaaS company. Well, like living on LinkedIn and X in the written word is probably, more effective than D2C soap company, whereas like you can be really visual and make, TikToks and Reels where it really highlights that product. So where does your brand fit on that spectrum is kind of where I would start.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You can't be all things to all people, and you can't be on all platforms. So, if you're a one-man band, you got to figure out what you can do efficiently and do well, especially, as you said, if you're a one-man band and this is just 1/5 of your role, right, within the organization. So it makes sense to me. And then so let's just outline the steps real quick. Step 1 is pick a format. Step 2 is create a content plan. Step 3 is pick your ride or die. And step 4 is cross-pollinate. So step 2 is create a content plan. Tell us more about that, Jacob.
Yeah, we chatted about this a second ago, but if you just show up and say, what am I going to post today? Mm-hmm. The quality is not going to be where it should be. And by quality, I just mean relevance, like whether or not it resonates with your target audience is not going to be there. But then the quantity is not going to be there. Really, I'm a pretty firm believer that it's really hard to overpost if your content is good. If your content is
Right.
legitimately adding value, the way we always joked at YouVersion, like we posted a lot, but it was all encouragement, right? It was all like trying to help people in their day. And we always joked that like nobody's going to see like, oh man, like YouVersion's inspired me 6 times. Like nobody's going to be mad about that. Like they're going to be like they like that. They like content that meets their needs in that moment. So
Jacob, would you stop being so helpful? It's really obnoxious, right?
Exactly. It's all about if you can find that thread, that needle of what content people really want, then you can just kind of put your foot on the gas and go. But so yeah, find out where's that content coming from. Do you have case studies? Do you have blogs? Do you have old podcast interviews? Finding a content source. And then if there is no content source, coming up with, okay, where is my idea generation going to come from? And that can come from a lot of places: competitors, peer accounts, figuring out what are your target consumers already consuming, and then back into what content can fit that. And not exactly what you asked me, but I think a lot of businesses start with what content do I have? And then they start posting that on social, when really a much more effective strategy is start with what are my customers watching or reading on social media? And then backing into, okay, what do I have that I can make fit that mold of what my customers already seem to like and seem to engage with.
Yeah. Our thing is, asking ourselves, how can we be helpful, right? And does this make their day better? Does this help them be more productive in their role? Are we helping them have more work-life balance and that kind of thing? So, all right. So what is this next step called pick your ride or die?
Yeah. So typically, so let's say, for me, my personal brand, if you shook me awake in the middle of the night and said, "What are you?" I would say something to the effect of, "I'm a writer." Like I love writing. I think that's where I feel most just in my element. And so, but I know that when I write a piece of content, that I can write a piece to be really, really, really good for LinkedIn or really, really good for X. And knowing that it will probably work fairly well for the other one, but it won't be as optimal as it could be.
Right.
And so picking your one platform, that what are you going to, so like, again, the stereotypical example of like a B2B SaaS company, well, your ride or die is probably LinkedIn. If you had to pick one platform that you are going to go all out on, it's LinkedIn. If you are a direct to consumer CPG, you're probably going to pick TikTok or Instagram, maybe YouTube Shorts, whatever's most natural for you. But then that leads into that next step of like cross-pollinating. You're still going to put that same content on the other platforms, but you're going to create content with one platform in mind, knowing that's where you've planted your like flag in the ground of this is where we're going to really try to build an engaged community.
Yeah, and in a big company, Jacob, there might be somebody who's creating like, the strategic vision and direction for social media. Somebody underneath them is actually writing out some themes, and then somebody underneath them is the TikTok person, the LinkedIn person, right? The Snapchat person, or whatever it might be, and they're taking these, kind of what we call like cornerstone pieces of content, and turning them into little pebbles that go specifically for that outlet. So same messaging, same strategy, maybe even the same audience, just a different format. And I think that's a big mistake that brands make, is they try to make one platform work for everybody, or one style of content, and they just plug it in. Oh, I'll put this on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And it just doesn't work that way, right? So imagine if you were just trying to, and you can't, right, post text only to TikTok, right?
Yeah.
If you could do that, you'd have near zero followers, right? I mean, they'd just be like, what are you even doing right now? So you'd be worse off doing that than just not even doing it at all. So.
And the stereotypical example, right, is putting a link in an Instagram caption, right? Like we've all seen it, that brands kind of stumble and do that. It's like, it just comes off as so tone deaf. Like you don't understand. Have you heard of Instagram before? It's you've got to, be familiar with the platforms, as familiar with the platforms as you are with your own message and your own, your own brand.
Right. Exactly. All right, Jacob. So, tell us kind of what's something that I should have asked you, or you wanted me to ask you that we haven't talked about yet.
That's a great question. I don't know. The main thing is I think we tend to really overcomplicate it. And so would just love to encourage any social media manager, social media professional listening that so often we put so much weight on the algorithm, on the tool, right? Like if I only had X number of dollars, kind of like we talked about, or this tool or that platform. And I think when I look at some of the accounts that have grown the fastest were some of the ones with the least amount of resources because they had to be scrappy. They had to be really creative and really clever about how do I meet my audience's need. And then sometimes too, it's like if you look at what really performs well, it's the kind of stuff that feels off the cuff, that feels native, that feels personal, and like it's cliche, but you can't fake authenticity, like there really is that that person to person, human to human element that I think you can really take advantage of. I was listening to Alex Hermosi made a comment a while back about, he said, I wish I could be my business's competitor because there are so many ways I would go about it as a startup, as a one-person team that I could use things I can't use now. And so I think just, obviously we all want to get to a point where we grow the socials and build out a team underneath us, but use the season you're in to do some really cool stuff.
Jacob, you're reminding me of something I used to talk about, which is, asking yourself, what would your replacement do different than what you do today, right? So if you left the company today, Jacob, and somebody came in behind you, what would they do better or different than you're doing, and why? And do you have the courage and confidence to start doing those types of things now, when you know those things would be done just a little bit different from an outside perspective? So kind of reminds me of that. And if possible, Jacob, we'd love to put the links to some of these people that you're mentioning in our episode notes so other people can follow them on X or other platforms that, or LinkedIn or wherever we might find them and their content. So, Jacob, you kind of did this already, but, what are some additional mistakes you see people making on social media? If you could give like kind of some rapid fire ideas there.
Yeah, I think trying to be all things to all people, trying to live on every platform, trying to live in every format. If you're a one-person team, it's probably not realistic to pull off, being a great writer, great graphic designer, great video editor. So trying to pull all that off is definitely tough. And then I think I kind of mentioned this to you. I think the biggest problem, and I can't take credit for this. My friend, his name is Jacob Shipley, has this example, but he's like, talk about coffee shops. He's like, coffee shops, they start with, okay, what content do we have? Well, we have behind the scenes roasting videos. We can do latte art. We can talk about National Coffee Day. And then as a result, what happens? Well, every coffee shop Instagram feels exactly the same as the next one, and there's no differentiation. There's nothing exciting about it. Whereas the ones that are really winning are saying, okay, like, who's my customer? Let me look at Instagram from their perspective. What kind of content stands out? And then backing into what kind of content can I create? And so I think anytime we start with us versus whoever's on the other side of that screen, that's probably the quickest way to lackluster results.
Yeah, audience focus is the way to go, right? Make the audience feel special, put the spotlight on them, and walk a mile in their shoes with an audience-focused message that has empathy towards what their problem is and what they're trying to solve by using your products or services. So I completely agree with that 100%. So, all right, Jacob, anything else you wanted to cover as we're wrapping up?
I don't think so. I think, I'm always like, if I didn't get it across, I love chatting about social. And so always down for conversations, whether that's on, LinkedIn or email. I'm always down to jam and chat about all things social.
Awesome. Well, we connected on LinkedIn, and I'm sure this is how most people connect with you on LinkedIn. Someone comments or likes or shares one of your posts on LinkedIn, and then we end up reading it, and I end up reading it, and I was like, this is really good stuff. So I started following you, and then I reached out to you and said, let's connect and collaborate a little bit, and then turned into an invitation to be on our podcast. So I'm really glad we did that, Jacob. And here's to more collaboration together in the new year, and really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Jacob Shipley is on LinkedIn, and we encourage you to connect with him there. And when you do, make sure you send him a custom note, custom invite, and tell him you heard about him on Top of PR with Jason Mudd. And so with that, this is Jason Mudd with On Top of PR and Axia Public Relations signing off and saying thank you for tuning in. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with a friend or colleague who would benefit from it. And with that, we are thrilled and honored to help you stay on top of PR. Be well.
This has been On Top of PR with Jason Mudd. presented by ReviewMaxer. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and check out past shows at ontopofpr.com.